Thank you so much, Prof. Kamal. Nice meeting you again.
Yeah, sure.
So, many of you may have heard about Kemal Atatürk, the father of modern Turkey. This is the father of Indonesian education. Will soon be known as such. Very good friend, very nice person, and if you get any opportunity to interact with him, please take that opportunity. And as Kamal said, quickly introducing the students from Northeastern University. I will probably not go through each of them right now. We can do it later, or do you want me to go through just names and departments? Yeah, overall. So, okay.
What is our means?
Okay. So this is what Northeastern calls the Dialogue of Civilizations Study Abroad program. This is a month-long faculty-led study abroad. It focuses on one content, a theme, and cultural immersion. So our content for this dialogue is climate change and emerging economies. This dialogue has been running now for the last 10 years, and we have visited many countries across the world in Asia, South America, and Africa. And we came to Indonesia, Jakarta and Bali in 2017, and we are back here. Over these 10 years, this dialogue has attracted students from all colleges at Northeastern, meaning College of Engineering, College of Science, College of Social Science, College of Games, arts, media, etc. So all colleges, College of Health, all colleges at Northeastern University. This year is no exception. We have students, these are all undergraduate students with different expertise and interests and majors and minors across fields ranging as widely from economics and international affairs to environmental studies and electrical and computer science, and also psychology. So very wide field. I'll not be able to do justice to all of them. At some point, if we have time, we'll just go over the students here just with their names and majors, but I'll leave that for later. So we have 33 students, undergraduate students. 2 of them are missing right now because they're not feeling well, but so they can be here tomorrow or day after, etc., for example. And we have 4 program assistants who also happen to be my PhD students, and they are somewhere here. She's one, and Dian, one of them is Dian Indrawati. Oh, here. She is from Indonesia, and currently we also have Professor Gavin Shatkin, who many of you will, whom we'll hear from soon. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But it's a very interdisciplinary group of undergraduate and graduate students, very much eager to learn about and try to address the global challenge of climate change in the world. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry, you're just trying to get the connector here, but yeah, the Prof here, so he's off the building. I don't know how to contact him. Normally we use WhatsApp, but he said he never used WhatsApp because it would be monitored by the authority. So we have difficulty to contact him because he didn't use our normal connectivity that he had. So hopefully we can very soon here. So by the way, after his lecture, then the next will be, I don't know, you, Gavin, or you, Gavin. Then after Gavin, then we may have some lunch break, and then you will be ready with all the stories of Jakarta. No story. No story. Climate change. Okay, climate change in Jakarta. Everything about climate change. Okay. So, by the way, while waiting for Joyo, what should I say? We had a couple of joint research in visitors from last month. We had students from Brown, urban studies from local here, and they take a tour for the student in Jakarta. So we're planning to issue some tour basically in Jakarta, and if you like to have a very intensive, extensive tour, we are ready for you. But I know it's too much for you. But this is very interesting to see to learn the Jakarta with all the complex development in Jakarta city after 7 years. And I think Hendro asked me whether the climate change issue already moving forward in the policy. Perhaps, in my words, it's good to learn from the city like Jakarta now that how things slowly change or not change at all, not even better perhaps. Big challenge last 7 years ago, I don't know you mentioned about the Great Wall development, right? The Great Wall, slightly, not officially, but still being talked about. But one of the islands already fully developed. So interestingly, with the full big picture, only one island is already there, 2 islands there. And you have to have time to visit those islands. The picture of the great seawall, but then the seawall is no longer there, but the island is there. So one of the development. But the flooding and the water issue is pretty much the same. Then in the workshop on the 22nd, I'm going to invite friends from our friends that they work in the ministry. So they might be sharing with you how the government tries to do some policies or interventions in the land use and the water and in other development that we can discuss in a more informal way because we work in the ministry these days, so they are basically the one that write up the policies, regulations, and all the government doing. As a background, this year is the last term of the cabinet. The second term of the President Jokowi will be done this September. So the next president will be, the next cabinet will be starting this October. So we don't know whether we continue with the current policies and programs with the same thinking or completely different story, I cannot predict. So this is something that we need to observe. When we came here 7 years ago, still the same government basically. I'm not yet in the Ministry of Planning. At the time we were more in the presidential office. But then we must still continue to do. But then next year we will see how changing over the next 5 years. And during this year, the planning agency is now this day wrapping up and just finished with the 20 years long-term development plan for Indonesia. Next year and the next 20 years. Already written, already approved, and become official document. And then people working on the 5 years plan is still in the final draft. It's not yet finished, but I invite the people who part of the team to draft it. So at least you get some sense of what the Indonesian government thinking about the overall next year, 5 year development, including the climate change and everything. And this year also we have to write the annual budget plan for next year for the new cabinet. So the office, my colleague is pretty busy, and unfortunately we have the water forum, the World Water Forum in Bali. So some of the people that we good to share about what's going on, they are all in Bali now, so we cannot invite them. And maybe you meet them.
They will come in our.
Okay, so we'll meet them and talk, but I cannot invite them in Jakarta actually. This lecture and the Friday, Wednesday, 22nd. So, okay, I'm ready. So without further ado, please share the inconvenient truth about our way.
Well, unfortunately, it's Al Gore who didn't say it first. I mean, poor Al Gore. Okay. Well, you know the fact, right? I mean, so this is I tried just to show this. This is actually a very serious what we call black meeting. I mean, it's like a bit clandestine. This is on the island of Siberut, Mentawai, and the idea is actually to question everyone how to defend their life space. So I belong to a tribe called Sangkoyo. We work very hard over the past few years actually to start enticing the young actually to return to the river, because the whole Mentawai is actually survived for centuries because of the very intricate waterscapes that actually it's not much different from our beings. But now people turn to motorcycles, and then there's a Trans-Mentawai highway now. This is small islands, but it's a national standard, so 50 meters the width, that's just crazy. And so over the past 2 years, actually, I dig into the colonial archives, including from print media, that's about 50 newspapers, and just to understand the whole thing, because it's they sort of the younger activists and scholar activists of the Mentawai actually deprived from these informations, and of course they it's everything is oral. So let me start by this is like questioning the theme of the topics that given to me, the so-called adaptations of climate change. And thank you, Fatima, for considering who am I. But actually, I'm just a normal Pentagon. Read the whole thing, but this is just giving you an idea that actually when we talk about climate change these days, at the very least we need to understand that there are three planes. It's all political. The first and very important is actually language politics. So for those of you who dig into Wittgensteinian strategy, I'm actually to try to understand the politics of climate change through this. So just briefly, try to explain what's on the slides here. The whole story about climate change was delayed for about 25 years actually, since the late 1960s. And the first party that really understands about global warming is the big cartels, the oil and gas companies. And there's one dissertation coming out, I think 2 years ago, and detailing how actually the energy industry know firsthand about it and tried to delay the public response until 1992 during the Rio +20, and then 2 years later we have of course the UNFCCC set up, and within 3 years actually we have major defeat actually with the Kyoto Protocol, where actually the countries, particularly the Annex 1 countries, 44 countries, that's completely responsible for the global warming, sort of given free hand to continue the show with only 5.4% of emission reductions compared to the 1990 level. And the key word there is actually the flexible mechanisms. That is actually all the problems that we see now in 2024, which actually started from there. But in the middle here, I put a flawed definition of disaster. So the UN system actually very seriously, very carefully defined what qualified as disasters and what's not. So lots and lots of industrial disasters, and throughout the post-war period, both in the north and in the south, actually, it's more than just qualified as disasters. I will give you some examples for Indonesia. But then it's sort of being obfuscated, and the so-called disasters are then, exaggerated into natural disasters. So we talk about earthquakes. Earthquakes now is not really natural disasters. In 2017, 7 October to be precise, the big city of Pohang in South Korea actually got a very serious earthquake, 5.4 scale. And it's exactly on top of a geothermal shaft. It's enhanced geothermal system. So for the first time, the industry, the geothermal industry, couldn't say anything. And Korea at the time got a new president, very smart and very committed, this woman. And she then actually, led the whole investigation. So you can see that climate science, the so-called climate science, if we put it half futuristically, it's like, this is a misplaced carbon molecules. If you put all the carbon molecules back into the proper place, then we have no problems. And of course, this is a fantasy. We can leverage knowledge. So the second is the flawed definition of disaster. The American Graduates Association in Indonesia actually invited me to say what the organizations of the disaster discourse a few years ago. And then the last thing is actually how to deal with climate change. And this is in the heart of the so-called mitigations and adaptation policy framework. First, nothing wrong with growth. Okay. Second, forget cut dependency. And this is in complexity theory because it's ridiculous. And then the third one is actually flexible mechanisms for the market players are the least cost solutions. So what actually is existential crisis, the end of climate as we know it, it's not just climate change, that's euphemisms. It's sort of being, shifted into something which can be seen only from the economic crisis. And the big thing now, including in talking about mitigations and adaptation, is of course the climate market, the so-called climate markets. And with a lot of friends in Europe, in Africa, and in Latin America, been following this very closely. Actually, since the Kyoto Protocol. So I used to be a corridor lobbyist with a few friends, giving a briefing at the 3 o'clock in the afternoon to the group of indigenous people leaders from Latin America particularly. So tomorrow we will have the sessions, and then this is the issue, and they want to raise the issue and all that, and we have to say this. Since 2001, actually the biggest NGO, particularly in the north, including UCN, World Resource Institute, started to show their true colors. So they are both carbon and even beyond that. The three key features of these climate markets. The first is that climate risk spell opportunity. There's not really a problem. It's just probably a blip on the screen. Climate change. We can manage it. We can even, tweak here and there so that the rise of temperature is no more than 1.5 centigrade. So this actually it's become the new colonialism. for us in the south, and Indonesia is really the center of it. The second is actually, there's an attempt in the first 7 to 10 years after Kyoto Protocols to say exactly this. Well, it's the forest, not us. The deforestations that you've been doing in Indonesia. Of course, during the Suharto regime, it's true. But the idea is actually to switch the spotlight from the smokestacks in the north to the tropical belt for a good reason. So it's not the forest, not us, the big reference. But then, after the failures of EU emission trading systems and all that, and you know, it's a lot of chaotic development earlier, what the government did. Then they come to this argument now. Okay, it's us. We are guilty, but let us own your carbon stocks and other primary energy sources as well. So you certainly have been aware of the jargon energy transitions, for example. And this is actually a big problem. In Indonesian, we say this is ekonomi rendah karbon, tinggi korban. So it's low carbon, high casualty economy. And this is true. I'll show you. Now, we have exactly 30 years from the beginning of the climate regime in the UN. I put the subtitle, this is 3 wasted decades of the delay and distract market-based climate mitigations and adaptations. Nothing good come out. There's scholars in Harvard, he actually showed the problems in showing, you know, the, what the worst, you know, can happen with climate change. And he showed that actually there's this statistical problem called fat tails. So in fact, if it's going worse like we have now, it can jump into 5 degrees Celsius. So, you know, forests are gone, and you know, it's very, very rapid, you know, deteriorations of the biosphere. So there's lots of hard evidence of biosphere breakdown now. Heat waves, bigger floods, extreme weathers, the whole West Sumatra and the Sumatra Islands, actually it's huge floods. But on the other hand, actually there's a lot of droughts. The poles keep on melting, and the, you know, it's very threatening. The Atlantic regional overturning circulation, or MOC, is getting weaker. And this is actually spelled disaster for people, particularly in Europe and western part of the US. Also, the so-called climate policy directives, particularly from the north, in the, you know, with the tutelage of OECD and also European Union, is actually socially predatory. And I'm not saying this lightly because I read seriously every week. I read actually internal papers of OECD secretariats and all that. For example, electric vehicles kill us on the cobalt and nickel fields. This is true in Congo, but also true in Eastern Indonesian islands. Indigenous people lives turn into carbon farms. Big NGOs and small NGOs now flock into these carbon markets in Indonesia since the announcement that Indonesia now starting these new regimes of carbon markets last year. And more mining means the end of critical waterscapes. I'm very, very critical about this World Water Forum. And in fact, I challenge some of the speakers and all that, but I cannot join the meetings. But because the organizers, actually the Minister of Public Works, that is exactly directly responsible for the crisis in waterscape, as I will show. Last but not least, I think military industrial complex is here to stay. It's also a very effective, you know, distractions to talk about climate change. So So digitalizations, platform ICT, and AI deserves more minerals and water. Yeah. Hyper-extractivism needs more organized violence. And then sacrifice zones, like the whole Indonesia, must be kept quiet and guarded. And this is what's happening now in Papua and Maluku and many different regions. So this is the first flag. I don't have many flags, so don't worry. There's no questions about how bad the forest is. California forest is actually, an example by excellence. All the stocks, carbon stocks, being traded now, it's actually a bit surreal, actually, that the fate of the Earth or the biosphere actually now depends very largely on these three spots. First is, of course, the Amazon. Under Bolsonaro, this is really complete disaster. I've been going back and forth there, including the Amazon. And also the Congo, that's it. The third, but this is actually Southeast Asia, part of the big one. But the most important is the Indonesian islands, particularly Papua. The reason why, because it's the story about watering, the biggest water streams. So Congo basins actually keep, I think about 1/5 of the whole water in the continent of Africa. They're huge. Almost the same with Amazon. Okay. Well, this is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. This is Nicholas George Surohan, a Romanian economist that for the first time did very devastating autocritics of his own profession. He's been for years work in the UN system and all that. And then he returned to Romania after the war. And he sort of acknowledged that actually, So behind every crossing point between the supply and demand curves, there always is a slow process of environmental devastations. We call it entropy. Material recycling will not reverse as a process, but this is just the beginning, and he is very productive in showing the ombre or the shadows of all this talk about growth. Now the University, Autonomous University of Barcelona guys, Joan Martinez Allier, Mario Pietro, and such, work along this line of approach. This is the 19th century. This is the in logarithm. So this is the amount of all the people on Earth, and all 100. So this is the amount of commodities, goods produced, and this is the amount of energy being consumed, extracted, and converted. 100 years later, this is going up 3 times. The number of commodities is going up 5 times. But the amount of energy being extracted, converted, and consumed rose 12 times. And this is our problem. And this is actually the most, I think, important attractor to work on complexity. That's really, pushing forward the idea of positive impacts that we are now dealing with. progress in terms of knowledge accumulated, in terms of bureaucratic machines and all this. So this is really very sad. You won't find it on newspaper. This is again, if we talk about debt resistance policy and climate debt resistance policy, we must understand that in the South actually, it works in hard competitions with other agenda. If you read carefully Levert, for example, I think some of his key observations correct. State has its own logic. Of course, it's parasites to the people and to the environment. So this is actually part of a lecture I gave in the ICS in Singapore about the new mining law. And in 2003, just an example, there's this new geothermal law, and it's endorsed by the industry, particularly from New Zealand and Iceland, that were very good in talking about geothermal technology. But now Israel too. So there came a problem because in 2009, there's new environmental law in Indonesia. And this is, come head to head with the geothermal law. Because it simply says that mining cannot enter the forest, period. No matter it's national parks, natural reserves, and all this. So this is a big headache. Do you know why? Because more than 60% of geothermal prospects are deep in the forest. Be it in Sumatra, be it even in Papua, in the Birdhead region of Papua, without volcanisms. Now they want to take in 3 spots. It's very critical from disaster point of view, because it's all critical fault lines, and it's been repetitive earthquakes, and they take exactly. So in 2014, the industry managed to push the legislations actually to legislate and officiate the new geothermal law with the help of big NGOs like the WWF. And then, of course, it's all so you can talk, you can join, and you can sign, you can in fact approve the international agreement, internationally determined, nationally determined contributions and all this until now. But this is not as good as what it advertised on the ground. And actually, very huge gap between the so-called claims of the Indonesian government with what's happening on the ground. To be fair, actually, you cannot put your living fingers on a particular country, this is South Africa, Indonesia, and this, because this is actually the real story about who control the climate market. So you see the blocks: ASEAN, ANC, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, CPA, AFTA, Shanghai, cooperation organizations, all the way to the Latin American counterparts. And these are actually very effective mechanisms to give directives, both in mitigations and adaptation, to the state systems in these countries. And beyond this, actually, you have, giants like BlackRock, for example, everywhere. The biggest state-owned banks in Indonesia is actually being, listed here and led by BlackRock. A small country of Ecuador, for example, is really in the Mexico. And now they entered very, gung-ho in capital markets since last year in Indonesia. This is actually unspoken impact of energy transitions and adaptation policy. The whole island of Java became giant captive market for the energy industry. And I follow very closely all this, and if you see the blocks here, the white one is geothermal, the red one is of course the popular culprit, coal-fired power plants, but it's all the way to hydros. And it's not because the demand is this high. In fact, the World Bank latest reports on energy industry in Indonesia telling exactly in one of the pages that the peak load for the country is actually about 35 gigawatt hours. But Indonesia produces electricity up to 70 gigawatt hours, twice. So we emitted greenhouse gases twice than what we need. The reason, because the energy industry want to make money from the energy consumption. So this is what I think we are familiar with the so-called industry demand. This is very serious policy problems, and if we don't really seriously examine and understand this, we will produce good people, very smart, younger scholars, that know nothing about all this unspoken story. On the left is Singapore, on the right is Samarinda, the capital city of East Kalimantan province. It's about the same, the area. But what I want to show from this slide is actually, look at the right slides on the right. Areas probably 3 times the area of capital cities, actually coal mines. And they have a second win with the energy transitions. Kind of, mind-boggling. I'll show you later. But I have lots of very good friends here. The Kenya Jalan people, I'm becoming a nephew for them. And it's very, very sad and very bitter life because they migrated 3 times all the way because of logging and all that. And now they put exactly like in zoo. In Bugas wilayah adat or customary territory, it's called Luhana. And I frequently visited my uncles. Very, very, very sad life. So, and I just lost another friend. Her name is Supina. It's a local healer and scientist. In 2017, I managed to organize a gathering of all shamans and healers, women shamans and healers, all Kalimantan conference in 2017. I'm not really a fan or deep fan of traditional healing, not because but I don't know nothing. I know nothing. But this is the reasons I and a lot of friends organize this is because women particularly know the best what is lost, how suffering is being, the burden on the family, on their body, and all that. And so we invited this very, 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 very touching and painful experience listening to all these religious people. This is the reason why there is a second wind for coal in Indonesia. This is 2 slides showing Weda Bay in Halmahera. I went there 4 times. Broken hearted every time. Lot of story actually. A group of lawyers, progressive lawyers in New York actually invited me to write about this. You can check it. It's called Plan Halmahera. That's my last name. How many of you interested? And earlier last year actually, in January and March, actually, more than 15,000 youngsters from the nearby islands, including from Western Seram, Maluku, and many different islands in Molucca, flock into this, humongous smelting complex, nickel smelting complex. And this is actually the twin complex. And the other one is on the eastern part of Sulawesi, also devastating. Now there are 14 smelters there. Each smelter is fed by one coal-fired power plant. Each coal-fired power plant burns 5,000 tons of coal every day. If you find the sum, if you calculate, this is more than half of all coal-fired power plants throughout the Indonesian continent. The problem is, Indonesia, of course, co-signed many different, including Glasgow and all the way to the so it's contradictory with the policy, adopted by the Indonesian government. But the catch is, the government put all this into the so-called captive power generations. You cannot touch them. But would you sign? This is what climate change meant. The whole world. Yeah, but this is captive. We want economic growth. Sorry. And this is not just in Beda and Sulawesi. The whole island is actually subject to the same problem. Sorry, I think much left, sorry. So this is what's being, shown to our eyes in urban areas. A few years ago, actually, I attended a seminar at this university where the battery corporations and all that discussing very eloquently about, well, if the battery is, is already expired on that, we are actually ready to recycle it. So I dig into the literature from the industry. Actually, it's not that easy, and it's only less than 10% actually the core materials that can be recycled. But in Jakarta, now you have not only electric bus but also electric motorcycle taxis. And every motorcycle taxi drivers, taking pride in graduating. And every time I ride with them, I teach them and I share the story about with them. Some people is sweating and ask me to sit and then we drink coffee together and I explain it to them. So the idea is actually, look, Jakarta will be this clean, man. It's so cool. I mean, it's black days and nice. No smoke, no smoke. In the morning you can breathe nicely. In reality, this is a sequence diagram of 5 variables intersected with another 5 variables. Coal, oil and gas, fluid kinetics, geothermal, chemical cell, battery. It's all actually inducing biospheric breakdown, macrobiome collapse, responsible for COVID-19, induced seismicity, lots of things happening in Bogor, in Sumatra and West. And the authority on earthquake said nothing. We showed them the map. I produced the map. Look, this is only less than 10 kilometers from your boring holes. Investigators. They did not even, think of responding to all this before. Human suffering, the most painful. The biggest problem now is mitigations and adaptation policy implementations in Indonesia. Millions of people will have collective trauma. Some of them will not be able to deal it throughout their life, particularly the women. And that is unspoken science, adaptation policy. Of course, what's so lovely here is investment appetite. Coal is now drastically because of this. also, heartbreaking story. Papua is the largest watershed in Papua. It's called Mambram, fed by the river Mambram. Yeah, it's very magnificent and grand. If you come just to start, doing something like rafting and all this, you surrender to the scale of the landscape. Since the early 2000s, this particular watershed is subject to very serious planning. Probably they will have more than dozens of big dams, smelters, big industries, for anyone from any country. The reason is this is actually exactly the heart of Papua. So I keep on telling my friends, all of us throughout the islands in Indonesia should fight seriously to defend life in Papua. And I learned, I'm a fan of anything about marine biology, so I know that this actually even will impact the whole biodiversity on the north, but also on this side. And this side is actually Indo-Pacific regions, if you look at it. So this is really the end of the world for life, even beyond the moon. And it's extremely cool examples. We can do mitigations and adaptation. A few years ago, I criticized Greenpeace for an article that said Papua is ready for renewable energy. Lovely people, they don't have excessive energy consumption. It's time actually to invest in clean energy in Papua, something like that. So I put it in an article in the journal, and our complaints, you do know that, you can ask them, telling this, and so the industry will read it. Now, we come to the end. The sad thing about all this is that we've been suffering this from 1602. When the Dutch East India Company started to run havoc in India. And so I decided to split the whole island into these blocks. And I follow in very detail. Every year I still make corrections and updating from the bankruptcy of the VOC all the way to 2019, 1 year before COVID. Mining, infrastructure, and there's Cross Java highway, all the way. But actually, it should not be surprising. The whole devastations in the life of ordinary people like myself, not only in Java, but in many different islands, actually sort of being crammed into a very short period of 50 years between 1969, the dimension earlier, to 2019. So you see how serious the distractions that can be, generated from that technocracy. You don't think about climate change at all. You see, everything is lumped into this small window, very narrow window, between 1969 and 2019. So the question is, how should we tackle this? In college, in the state offices, at the kampung level, work with real ordinary people. Don't talk about big things, just your kampung and all that. What about the rivers, the waterscapes? That's the reason why I keep on, venturing and compelling on that. Well, I'm up to actually, this is actually what we need to do, including in universities. Spend less time in classroom. I think I should stop here. I give the mic to
Small starting, but this is something we're already moving forward. Okay, please.
Okay. So it's a challenge. So in 2007, because I actually tell myself actually returning after rejecting very honorable offer actually to be part of the university that I graduated in 2006. So I already lectured for 2 years. Then something happened in Surabaya with the mud flow, instigated by gas drilling activities of companies called Lapindo Gas. And within 2 weeks, I decided to turn down the offer to become seriously academic. So it was just accidental academic. So I, with a lot of dismay and yelling from my closest friends, including my classmate community members, I decided to return to Indonesia and start thinking about all these things. And we, less than 1 year later, I sort of started a very loose learning infrastructure network consisting of ordinary people. They are the owners of experience under colonialism, all the youth, and they will have voice. It's like these students idea what some of them can speak. And so it's already 16 years old now. And we want to tackle the whole world. So I have to deal with about 210 countries, their history. I know how many hundreds languages and tribes in Africa and all this. Of course not alone, with friends in the street. And so extremely beyond the idea of policy, all this very technocratic idea that came actually from within the UN. So the idea is actually very simple learning agenda for everyone. If I were differently able, I have differences in my neurological setup, for example, I can be part of it. If I am a woman without any schooling, I can be instrumental part. And this is what we seriously about. So if we look at back, if we think back all the slides before, actually, we need first to scrutinize the dissonance between the economic nexus and the social and ecological nexus, but the social purpose. And this is what's behind the so-called primitive accumulations and dispossessions and others. But after we understand how it affects the people, the adaptations and all that, we need to rectify the contradictory processes. And you cannot rely this to big offices somewhere in the capital or provincial level. You have to do it whatever you can. If you want to resist the process of destroying your life space, then you have to build your own wall, your own fence, with the smartest idea of how to do it. Otherwise, you end up in jail. All these things. And we are not the professors, we are not the trainers or facilitators, things like that. We are the kindergarten students. Anywhere I came, we only work on invitations. I will say, I'm a kindergarten kid here, so please kindly share with me some things. And so, this is actually, if you're familiar with this, this is a kind of non-linear types of learning. It's called rhizomatic process of learning after word, learning, and the. And so, if you manage to do this in your life space, forget about Indonesia or Papua New Guinea or then you have to be humble enough. You have to, humble yourself to adapt these adaptations. All your mode of life, your social metabolism, to the requirement of the autopoietic process of the wet stream that now in detail. So it is very, very simple step actually that needs no explanations. And because we will talk it, of course, not in English, not that, and they actually teach us about this. And so we try to share the stories. So within 2 years actually, we've got invitations from 59 distinct islands and communities throughout Indonesia. They just moved from, World of Mars and Texas. And so we move places and we don't try to get funding, because then it will be a big distraction from what we do. So how we move places? We simply said, we have no money at all, so we have to arrange to buy a ticket to go to the place center until now. And so the idea is actually, if you follow the path dependency, there will be perpetual enlargement of social ecological entropy after the transition round. Right? It's endless. And the attractors, it's twin attractors. One is actually the crisis blind state. The Indonesian state, not only Indonesian states, the United States of America, the Germany, for example, they don't have the capacity, the whole informatic infrastructure for the Westphalian state system. Don't have the capacity, the informatic infrastructure to understand the crisis the way they being experienced by real people, particularly in the decolonized states. The second is actually crisis perpetuating social metabolisms. Macintosh, iPod, and it's endless. Karaoke, by Japanese consortiums of electronic industries, so everyone now who can pretend that express their located. This is really, now K-pop, this guy saying and hiding very grave situations in Korea. So we use quadrants of economic expansions or shrinkage. If 1 trillion of rupiah, Indonesian rupiah, produce positive social effect and positive ecological effect, then we say this is quadrant 1 economic expansion. If the opposite is true, both are negative. The social impact factor is negative, the ecological impact is negative, particularly in the urban areas. Then we have the quadrant 3 situations. So again, if I'm an old woman, no schooling at all, I can produce it with wood carving. I made hundreds of them, some in Balinese characters and all that. I carve it myself. Then they can play with it while fetching water and all that. They will ask the nephews of it, will it be good for me and all the women here? Well, actually it's not exactly that. So negative. Will it be good for our water? Not really. We have lots of money. Okay. Forget it. We say no. So this particular woman can operate like a governor of a province. It's very vital decisions. And without all these, rituals or focus group discussions, all this. And so we have to cut the dependency and come with an alternative. And this is an offer no one knows, but depends on the social history and class history and all that. So you will try to understand that the social metabolism should really be dedicated only for biophysical metabolisms, not techno-metabolisms. And of course, Marx had said that for the first time, the stock also, the metabolisms, actually it's now you see writings from the world system guys, Jason Moore and all that, about this metabolic rift. And so you have to start thinking and making steps actually, just to earn things knowledge, not in terms of money, but in terms of feeding your family and yourself. And this is actually the grammar. And the grammar varies from island to island, not to compare that. To achieve what? To achieve an economic expansion fully in the first quadrant. This is the departure from the SDE with our friends in Autonomous University of Barcelona, because they launched this, of course, the growth, which is extremely good, extremely committed. I know them, but I think we need to exchange good notes for this. This is actually the second. So we are now being pushed because of this pet dependency that's not being addressed properly. You now talk about nature-based solutions or carbon markets. It's a forklift forward and backward. And it's very scary because it's much more brutal than the first stage of colonization. It's planetary colonization. Really. So the earth is now being treated like labor in 19th century England. Ecosystem services. One important thing is that now they are almost ready with revamping the whole national income accounting methods, following the finance capital new directives on this. IUCN finished the job. And the Financial Service Authority in Indonesia, OJK, just released a few months ago the so-called green taxonomy. Very scary, very stupid promise. It said that, okay, if you do this, then you belong to green, so people will buy more stocks. And it's actually coordinated in ASEAN level by the ministries of finance. Of course, behind it's ED, the World Bank Group. That's it. Sorry.
Okay, give you a brief moment to digest what he says. I don't think there is some questions raised. I don't know. Any questions, comments? If not, then we have to finish our time. I think the next will be, I don't know what time is it now? 12. Are we going to have lunch break? I will come to you. Okay. Yeah, what is the agenda? If we have to have a lunch break.